What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday, Jake Waxman, go time. All right, so a lot of stories to talk about when it comes to the college football season in 2024. And oh god, it pains me to say this, but it hurts me on the inside, believe me. But being a Purdue guy, of course, but there is no story right now that's creating more buzz around college football than the 7-0 Indiana Hoosiers. When you're like, wait, the football Hoosiers, sir? That's right, not the basketball team at the moment, but right now the 7-0 Indiana football team. That's right. They are 7-0 right now. And for the first time in a long time as well. And they've already won more games at this, or they've won the same amount of games this season than they have combined the last two seasons. So, for starters, how did this happen overnight? This was a team that won 3 games last year. How did they suddenly turn things around? And right now, Indiana, they got a good football team, and the architect behind this really good football team is none other than Curt Cignetti, who came over from James Madison University. And those were really good JMU teams as well that he coached for since he had been coaching since 2019. So he took the Indiana job just this season, and already this football team, they've already they've more than right the ship. They actually look like a playoff contender right now. They look like a team that could easily make the college football playoffs or make the inaugural 12-team college football playoffs. Mind blowing. Goodness, I just being a Purdue fan, it drives me nuts. I'll admit that to you. It drives me absolutely bonkers. But I gotta give a lot of kudos though to Curt Cignetti. He's come on over, and of course he brought a whole team with him too. He brought I think 13 players over from James Madison University and a couple others from other schools. The biggest name being Curtis Rourke, the quarterback for Indiana, who's put up some big time numbers. And you guys want more further proof that this team is really, really good? They're good on both. They're great on both sides of the ball, and the teams that they have played this season, they just convincingly crush. Like they've crushed every team that they've played. They've won by double-digit scores in every game, and they haven't trailed in a single game. And a lot of that comes down to coaching, which that is one of the strengths of Curt Cignetti. This Indiana team in the game against Nebraska, they were up 35-7 at one point. You would think, Curt Cignetti would be all excited, cheering for his players, but that was not the case. Instead, you got this face. There's a picture. There's like a picture of that, and I remember watching that on College Football Saturday on Fox, and he was giving that face. Like that's the look of a man that's focused on the task at hand. So, based on what I see from Curt Cignetti, he coaches for the full 60 minutes. He doesn't get too excited. He stays focused. He knows what the ultimate goal is. So, because of this Indiana football team, drives me bonkers to say it, but they are a very, very, very good football team. And Curt Cignetti is the big reason why. He's got that team well coached. They're disciplined. They're focused. They do the little things right, and it shows. And critics will say, they're good, but they played an easy schedule. I mean, they haven't really played anybody. They'll say that. They were saying that before the Nebraska game, and Nebraska's a good team. Indiana blew them out. So I will say that the games that Indiana has played, look, they've won convincingly. That's how good they are. Sure, they haven't played. You could say maybe they haven't played. I mean, they'll play Ohio State this season. Okay, they're gonna. And what happens in that game could possibly determine whether or not Indiana makes the college football playoffs. And a lot of that's also due to polling and that stuff. And of course, it is true that Indiana does have an easy schedule. Hey, they've been blowing out the teams that they are playing, and they can't help. Curt Cignetti can't help. The schedule was made before he even got there. So, and right now he's doing a really great job coaching those guys and keeping them focused for the full. Like you can have an easy schedule and still not play up to your potential. This Indiana team, every single game they've been playing up to their potential, and it shows. And this is a team that, I don't think it's a team that's going to go undefeated, but they're not going to lose very many games playing the way they are. Their big test, of course, will be Ohio State. They avoid Penn State this year. Now, and people give Indiana crap about the easy schedule, but let's be honest, they've played in the hardest part of the Big Ten, the East Division. So, painfully, I'll admit, they deserve an easy schedule for once. And this team right now, this Indiana team, much, much better than the Indiana team in the COVID year that almost went to the Big Ten championship and went to the Outback Bowl, I think it was. But this team is a lot better than that team. So, and sadly, Purdue's probably more than likely gonna get crushed by this Indiana team. That's how good they are, and Indiana should take the bucket back with ease. But anything could still happen. Still though, Curt Cignetti, you know what? Much respect to him. He has turned this Indiana, with that focus and that fire and that passion that he has, all balanced within the coaching mindset he has. He has applied that to this team, and you know what? He's turned this Indiana football program from a sad, unfocused, and undisciplined club to a more focused, more determined, more energetic. This team plays with fire and passion for the full 60, and it's showing. And you know what? They say football teams are a reflection of their coaching and the mindset of the coaches, and there's no better example right now with Indiana football led by Curt Cignetti. So, Indiana fans, enjoy them while you got them, and enjoy this great football team. You've got it. You deserve it. Now, here's the thing, though. In a way, I feel bad for Indiana fans because, Purdue's been through this before, but Curt Cignetti, with the job that he's been doing at Indiana, he's going to draw some interest from other programs, like potentially Florida, Oklahoma, maybe even Auburn could be looking for a new coach, but there will be some good programs lining up to get a new coach. And Curt Cignetti, he's going to be pretty much a guy that's going to be a top candidate for a higher paying head coaching job in college football. Question will be, now, Indiana's got a great NIL program across its sports there. But can they shuffle enough money to keep Curt Cignetti around and keep him from the clutches of teams like Florida and Oklahoma? That's going to be key. It wouldn't surprise me if Cignetti takes either the Oklahoma or Florida job after the season. It also wouldn't surprise me if he decides to stay in Indiana for a few seasons or even coach out the rest of his career at Indiana. It just all depends on what his ultimate goal is. Is it, to build a powerhouse program from scratch? Or is he looking to win a national championship? It all depends. So to sum up, for the Indiana football, they look like they are a very, very, very good football team right now. And Coach Curt Cignetti is leading the charge for Indiana football. No doubt there. And I'll just say this, being a Boilermaker fan, kudos to Coach Cignetti on the job that he's done at Indiana so far. All right. And speaking of college football, now, last Saturday, I, along with a lot of other fans of college football, and for those who were watching the Texas and Georgia game, we saw something we almost never, ever see. So we've seen refs blow calls before. We've seen them reverse calls out of nowhere at times. But and for the record, that Georgia-Texas game, okay. It was slated to be a great matchup. You had number 1 versus number 5. And, of course, Georgia won the game handily. Great football program. And Texas is still very, very good, too. Tough loss for them at home. But that's not what, unfortunately, is getting talked about from this game. We saw something in this game. I even still don't have words. So, there was a turnover. Texas got an interception, and then that interception got called back because the refs called DPI, which is defensive pass interference. And then you look at the replay of that, and I looked at it, and I was more shocked. I was like, wait a minute. This looks way more like OPI, or offensive pass interference. So it was a bad call. Now, and I'm not saying they should have reversed the call, but then What happened afterwards, you got fans just throwing all sorts of beer bottles and debris on the field. And then they had to stop the game for moments because of that. And then afterwards, the refs came out and did this. After all the debris was thrown on the field, they did something I couldn't believe. They actually reversed the call. Like, they actually then changed it to a no call. And not after, like, a quick debate or anything. It was minutes later and after Texas fans had thrown all sorts of crap on the field. So, now look, I'm all for doing the best you can and trying to make the correct call. But this was not a good thing. What we saw in this game, that was not good. The refs in that Texas-Georgia game may have just set a very dangerous may have just set a very dangerous example, for better wording. So now, apparently, the fans can influence referees' decisions. They can influence the refs to changing certain calls if they throw debris on the field. No, that's not right at all. That's bogus. Look, I'm all for holding refs accountable and that stuff, but fans like myself, whether any sports fan, should not ever have the ability to influence the outcome of a game or even the decision made by referees on a certain call or two. That should not happen. You know, referees stay off of social media for a reason, to stay away from. But these referees in this game, they got to go back to training. And you know what? They got to get a better mindset, because that can't happen again. Because now that's a dangerous example we just said, where apparently now fans can sway the referees into changing calls. That shouldn't happen. Look, I agree. First of all, I agree with changing the call to a no call, because that was a very bad. Because that defensive pass interference call, that was a crappy call. That was not defensive pass. If anything, they should have called offensive pass interference, and the play should have stood as a turnover for Texas. Eventually, they did get the turnover. But if you're going to reverse calls, you got to do it right away without any influence from the fans. You just got to go take a look, do it right away. Talk to each other, communicate, and announce your decision immediately, as soon as possible after you made the wrong call or something like that. No, you cannot make a decision after the fans just threw a whole bunch of crap on the field. Okay, that's not good. That is not good for college for any sport. Okay, and you know what? The game had to be stopped for a few minutes, and the Texas fans who threw stuff on the field, they should have been thrown out of the game. Should have been thrown out of the game. There are rules and there's consequences for that kind of stuff. And instead, Texas fans got rewarded for that. Of course, Georgia still went on and won the game. But my point here is this. I'm all for changing a call so the right call is made. But it has to be done immediately. Like, even in, like, you guys remember that Detroit-Dallas game a few years back? It was a playoff game. They called pass interference on the Cowboys, and then they picked up the flag. That was stupid, okay? That call should have stood, but I'll give the refs some props. They changed the call immediately after the first ruling. They didn't wait on it. The thing that's what's worse about this call than that one is they waited until the fans started letting their emotions show, and those referees let the emotions of the fans get to them. It's clear and obvious. Why else do you think they changed the call minutes afterward? That the emotions were running high, and the referees let that get to them. And you know what? This is why I couldn't be a referee, okay? Sometimes I get emotional too, and I get compromised as well. I mean, I try my best not to reverse a call, but I know I could be a bad liar saying that, the fans didn't influence my decision. I don't like to let people influence too many of my decisions, but every now and then, that slips through me, and it's no reason I couldn't be Look, being a referee is tough, okay? I do feel bad for those guys, and I know there are good referees who are doing their best, all right? What happened in this game was something I've never seen before, and what happened was the referees let the Texas fan base, get under their skin and and influence them to change a call on the field. And that's my opinion, of course. That's what I believe, and that's what it looks like to me. And the point is, if we can't have that happen again, so we need to have more training. So we got to, in terms the training now that I would recommend for referees, not getting emotionally compromised, keeping your cool, even when you make a bad call. If you make a bad call, if you're a ref, you know what? You made a bad call. If you can't reverse it immediately, then stick to your guns and just stick with it. All right. No matter what happens, fans are always going to dog on the refs, okay? They're always going to criticize. Refs are always going to get criticized. So, but most refs do not change calls, do not change initial rulings, no matter what the fans say. Even if they're wrong. That's just how things work. That's just how officiating works, okay? So, to close this subject out. Yes, the first call, that was bad. The DPI, the defensive pass interference, that was a bad call. Should have been anything. It should have been called offensive pass interference or no call. But if you're going to change the rule, and if you have to change the ruling, do it immediately. Do not let fans influence your decision. That is my message to. And going forward, the NCAA needs to better train these referees on keeping their composure and making sure they stick to their guns no matter how the fans feel about it. Because if more of that happens, referees are going to get out of control. And you know what? Games are going to get out of control and people could get hurt too. So, just taking a deep breath. So, basically, I couldn't believe it when they reversed that call. I didn't think they were actually going to do that. But going forward, hey, refs should still be held accountable, but also fans should have no say in whether or not a call, they should have no say in a call being changed. That's the referee's business, but also refs have to keep their composure. Either reverse the call right away after acknowledging you made a mistake, or just stick with your guns. If you make a bad call, you make a bad call. It happens with refs all the time. But do not change a call ever because the fans got under your skin about it. Because referees need to be tough in order to do their jobs effectively to the best of their ability. What we saw in this Georgia-Texas game was an example, sadly, of guys who were just not composed enough to officiate a big-time college football game. And that's where I leave this subject. That's a tough one. And now, we're going to talk about Purdue basketball. Okay, so Purdue, this weekend on Saturday, they have an exhibition game, charity exhibition. They're going to go all the way to Omaha to take on the Blue Jays of Creighton. So, this was a matchup that I thought we were going to see in the Elite Eight last year. I thought it was going to be Purdue and Creighton in my bracket last year, not Purdue and Tennessee, but that just didn't end up being the case. But now we get to see Purdue take on Creighton. We get to see a potential matchup. These are two teams that are a little bit similar in playing style. Creighton has a big guy too in Ryan Kalkbrenner, whereas Purdue, they don't have Zach Edey, but they have other big guys like Will Berg and Daniel Jacobson, an incoming freshman. So, yes, I know. For the record, I know this is just an exhibition, okay? It doesn't mean anything, which is why I'm going to be thinking more about, okay, what kind of lineups can we expect to see from Purdue? Like, what kind of styles can we see? How much will Purdue do, fastball or small ball? How often will they have one of their big men in, like Will Berg or Daniel Jacobson? How many minutes, How much will we see from guys like freshman Jakari Harris and freshman CJ Cox, who a lot of people are talking about as an underrated recruit? He could be Purdue's best player from that recruiting class. So, I'm curious to see what kind of lineups and experiments that Matt Painter plays with. Because this is the time to do it. Hey, it's just an exhibition. Doesn't mean anything. And, whoever wins, wins. I'm sure both teams are going to be looking at their rosters deeply and figuring out, okay, who's going to be what lineups are going to be best going forward? Who's going to be best on the bench? Coming off the bench, who's going to be best starting, you know? Will Purdue do right now in terms of Purdue basketball? The favorite for the starting lineup is Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Renn, and then Miles Colvin and Cam Heide. That's right now what Purdue is looking at as potentially their starting five. But that could change after this game. Maybe Will Berg comes in. And he comes in either alongside with, like, say, Trey Kaufman-Renn, and then they take out either Miles Colvin or Cam Heide. So we'll see. That's what these exhibition games are for. Figuring out, all right, what's your starting for a team like Purdue? You're trying to figure out what kind of a starting lineup do you want? All right, what kind of pace are you going to be playing at to start each and every game? And we're going to find out more about that in this exhibition game against Creighton. So, and of course, as far as I know, these exhibitions are usually not televised. Although I've heard a network in Creighton may have the broadcasting rights. I'll see what I can do to I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch it, but I'm going to try. We'll see. But okay. So, all right, to close this out. So what I'm looking for in this exhibition game is simply the lineup combinations. Are any freshmen maybe going to be the potential starting lineup, and how are we going to balance out these minutes? This is stuff, and also, who's going to play at like the 5 and the 4? Will Painter even use? What's Painter's plan with Trey Kaufman-Renn? Is he going to be playing forward or center? It could be that Purdue starts this season by tradition. Purdue usually is a team that's center heavy, but they could start the season without a starting center. That is stuff that I'm going to be looking for in this game versus Creighton. And win or lose, hey, I want to see how every individual player looks. And whether it's through getting assists, getting the ball where it needs to do, scoring points, or shooting threes. Every single little detail, even the smallest ones, I'll be looking for. And I'll be analyzing after this, before and during this game and after. We will find out. So, just a little preview of Purdue's exhibition with Creighton. And by the way, it's a charity exhibition, which makes it even better. I like it when money goes to good causes. Now, who the charities are involved with this game, I don't remember specifically. I'll have to look that up for you folks. But on to this day in sports history. On this day, the 23rd of October, 1977, despite not driving in the season-ending Japanese Grand Prix, Austrian driver Niki Lauda wins his second F1 Drivers' Championship by 17 points from Jody Scheckter of South Africa. Alright, sports fans, that is all I got for this week's Waxon Wednesday. Thank you for watching. Jake Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports, wishing you all a good week.